Hey guys, welcome back to my layout. It's Dan here as always, and we're going to be looking at some new projects in this video for the end of August 2025. This couple of months have gone by pretty quick, and I've been super busy out here, and I've been really busy with some other projects that we'll talk about here in this video. But I've gotten a lot of stuff done. I've done a lot of different cars, and moving into fall, I'm kind of switching gears into some different projects. I'm hoping to get into some flat cars and accomplish some other projects, and also look at some hopper projects again as we get into fall, because fall is a perfect time to do a lot of those heavier, more complex sit-down projects. You know, I call it rainy day coffee weather. So I'm looking to do some hoppers hopefully this coming season. So again, I'm just trying to finish some projects and kind of switch gears over as we get into the colder months, doing some more sit-down work and stuff, and also trying to build some structures for a future project that we'll talk about briefly. So a lot to actually cover in this video. So let's go ahead and get into this, guys, and we'll check out what I've been up to. Quick update on the layout. I've been doing some repairs to the track work out here, but that's about the only thing I've really been able to work on. Mainly just with ballast. I've had some more areas where the ballast is cracked because it was inadequately glued down. So you can see I've cut out certain areas of ballast, and I'm just taking new ballast and blending and patching everything back together. So that's one of the projects I've been doing. I've also been resoldering certain electrical connections that I've had issues with. I did manage to get this switch to work. I rewired it, and that seems to be taking care of the problem so far. I've noticed that only certain locomotives I have a tendency to short out on this point for whatever the reason. So I don't know. I'm still thinking I would like to take this out and redo this, but that's going to have to be for future work. Obviously the main issue right now is that I just haven't been able to get the time that I needed to come out here and get anything done, because I've been strapped for time, having to consume the time for other projects, mainly with my truck right now, which I'll talk about in a second. But the good news is that I have been able to run a lot of trains, and I've gotten a lot more rolling stock out here and tried and tested, because there's still a number of cars in my collection that have not been ran. So a lot of these have been on the layout now for a couple of months. Getting final evaluation, I've been finding what's been working and what's been having issues with, you know, like coupler height issues, if wheels are stuck or something needs to be freed up, or if the trucks are too tight. So I'm bringing my tools out here on certain days and just fixing the problems kind of out here on the spot. It's really actually just like how they kind of do mechanical repairs and stuff to cars on the spot. Certain times they have crews that'll go and do that. Kind of interesting. But just been doing that lately, and again, I just have to reballast certain areas. There's a spot over here somewhere behind these cars that I got to touch up. An area where I repaired a feeder I got to repair, and then a switch over here still needs ballasted. So I'm going to knock all that out in 1 or 2 sessions hopefully. But other than that, not too much is going on out here. Just still running trains and getting the op sessions in, and kind of changing some stuff around for the new project that I'm working on, which is in the corner. That's going to be the big reveal here pretty soon. I got a special module that I'm building that'll serve for video and photography, but I'm not going to show too much of that right now. I'd like to get it a little bit more complete to surprise you guys. So that's going to be the big reveal. But yeah, just running trains out here right now and trying to get stuff done when I do have time. But like I said, time's been just so limited, and it's just one thing after the other. You get one thing done and then something else breaks, and the other big headache has been dealing with my AC heater. The condenser went out in this, and I can't get the part for it, so that's been the complete holdup on this. So at this point, I'm probably either going to have to try to find someone to get this thing repaired, or I can, I don't know, jerry-rig something, or I'm just going to have to get a new unit. I've looked at the prices of some different units about this, and some of them are a little bit better, but they're still, you know, up there. They're closing in on $1,000, which is a lot of money to drop for something like this. But as we get into the colder months coming up, you know, super fast, I am going to have to get this addressed, because the temperatures have to be controlled out here in the winter time. Like I said, the coldest it'll get out here, even on the coldest winter days, is about 55 degrees with the insulation, but that's still cool enough where you're going to have track work buckling, the bench work starts to compress, and then you're going to have some real issues, as I've unfortunately learned in the past. Having this running out here and controlling the temperature and also having the dehumidifier, that's what's regulated everything. That's what's kept everything under control. So I am going to have to address this at some point, either replace the unit or fix it, but something's going to have to change. So, and real quick, guys, we'll look at the other big project that I had been putting a lot of time into, which is actually my truck. So my truck has been the biggest time consumer, and I've had to dedicate some time to getting this thing fixed up. And what happened was last year around Thanksgiving, I actually struck a deer. The deer was fine. I hit it at a low enough speed, but it still was enough that it damaged my bumper, and it actually damaged the side of my panel as well. So I've had to repair all of this, and the only option was either to do it myself or to take it to a body shop. And obviously a body shop would have been really expensive, so I chose to do all the work myself. So I got all new parts for the front, replaced pretty much everything, including the hood from parts I salvaged from yards or got brand new components. So that proved to be quite expensive, but I've had to dedicate a lot of time to painting and doing a lot of this stuff because I do a lot of my own body work. So it's great to get all this done, but it definitely ate up a lot of time, unfortunately. So that kind of robbed me of getting some things done. Following the theme here, I've been doing a lot of tank car modeling all throughout this year, and one other car I got done that's a little bit more of a unique prototype is the UTLX car here, which is decorated for potassium hydroxide solution. I added custom decals to this thing. I added the underbody piping. The new railings are Scratchbuilt on the top. I added the photo etched walkway pieces. The hatches and fittings are a mixture of Walthers and Athearn parts. And I just weathered this thing to match photos of similar potassium hydroxide cars. They get a lot of that white acidic streaking, a little bit of rust. The tank bodies are usually pretty heavily faded, lots of grime, and then again everything else is just your standard mixture of underbody kick-up and everything that you see on a tank car like this, where it's very visible. So I really tried to make great efforts to model a lot of that effect on this car. But it's another really unique prototype, and it's ready to go into service on the layout. Car number 2 is a really cool Wells Fargo patch 16,000 gallon clay slurry car. These are sent all over the place right now. Wells Fargo bought a small roster of these cars off UTLX, and they were just very quickly patched with a WFRX road style font. As you can see, road style meaning it's the similar style font to what they use in Highway. So I actually think the font's called Highway font. But anyways, these cars were quickly patched and thrown back into service. So I just modeled all of the patching using the Smokebox Graphics Highway style font decals. I used trim film for the black patching, and then everything else is just done to model the calcium carbonate slurry spillage, which is that white chalky substance spilled all the way down the tank body. If you look at the underbody especially, you can see all that white chalky spillage. That's just done with oil streaking. I did all the underbody kick up and grime and all the splatter on the ends, added the safety striping as you can see, and then around the manway cover there's a lot of rust, a lot of grime, and a lot of pitting. And so I really took the time to try to model that using the oils. And if we come up here to the top, you guys can really see the effects there. It's really nicely done, and take a look at the amount of paint chipping on those railings. Isn't that awesome? That really came out awesome, I think. And then there's some of the rust dots. That's just your standard bit of acrylic dot technique, and then you add a little bit of oils there to blend everything and streak it down to create the streaks. So that's the first one I've done. Hopefully at some point I can make another one of these. Getting into some custom built tank cars, this one was scratch built using a Walthers 23,000 gallon car that I cut down and shortened, recombined all the halves together, and then from there on I scratch built a lot of my own details. So I used Athearn RTR walkway and saddles from a 30K, I believe a 30K ethanol tank car. And then I custom made all of my own railings and fittings. The hatches are scratched up using styrene, and all the other hatches and other details are scratch built from wire, mainly brass, phosphor bronze, little discharge outlets, things like that, the steam pipes, all that was scratch built using a number of components, lots of styrene bits and things like that. The new placards are Detail Associates details, and then obviously the car was completely custom painted. I used a mixture of PDC decals and Circus City decals, and also decals custom made by Highball Graphics for the current UTLX yellow font. These are actually reflective in real life, but obviously no one's going to be making a reflective UTLX lettering sheet anytime soon. I say that now, and then obviously someone will come out with one tomorrow, but you know. Anyways, it's a very unique car, and these haul a very wide range of different toxic chemicals. This one's placarded for 3082, I believe, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the load on this, but I saw one of these cars in Pine Junction in Gary, Indiana. Had to have it, so I got all these stencils and everything made up. I got a whole actual decal sheet of just the stencils for Union Tank cars. This is also the more current style where they have the dual railings, where it's not just one continuous railing, it's actually two safety railings running around the length of the top walkway, and it has these safety guards too. And so that was a unique, bit of a challenging thing to model on this. In terms of weathering though, pretty simple, just a light fade, and then I did all of your underbody kick up and everything else. The trucks and the couplers are all nicely weathered up, and I think the car turned out really good. And I have another car that's the exact same style of car, just with some subtle variations that I'll show next. Here is the second UTLX car, and this is built exactly the same way as the opposite that we just saw. The car was scratch built, or at least customized, I should say, from a 23K Walthers car. It has new Athearn walkway and saddle pieces. Those are from a 30K ethanol tank car. All the decaling is by PDC, Highball Graphics, and Circus City decals for the various data and stenciling. I just custom painted the cars after they were built, but you can see all the details I added, like all of the underbody details, piping, new fittings, walkways are scratch built with the railings themselves. All the stanchions and everything are styrene. The railings themselves are phosphor bronze and brass wire. Now this car is an ammonium nitrate car, and these have unique temperature, or either temperature gauges or pressure gauges. I'm not sure on both sides of the car. So I constructed a little box to house the gauge, and I'm just going to be going on eBay and ordering some generic 1/48 scale aircraft gauges, hoping to find one that'll work just right for it. And I'm going to put the little gauge decal inside that box and then put a piece of clear film styrene over the gauge to look like a little glass case cover like the real cars have. It could be a plastic sheet, but I'm not sure. I only saw one of these in real life, and it was at Gary, Indiana, in Pine Junction coming out of Kirkyard heading westbound on CN there. But I didn't get a good look at the gauge to know the exact gauge type. I'm just going to have to try to kind of eyeball it there. But again, this car came out really good, and it was built exactly the same as the opposite one. These UTLX cars are just really cool and unique, but for the most part they follow a lot of the same guidelines. You know, a lot of the tank dimensions and things like that are the same. It's just the overall length and then the types of fittings they have, and obviously the different lathings that they're carrying. They can all be pretty much completely scratch built using the Walthers cars. You guys may remember these from a couple builds back. These are the jumbo UTLX cars that I scratch built up to represent cars that are in, I believe, tallow service. I appreciate all the research that a couple followers of mine did. These cars are in fact in tallow service. That explains why they're not placarded. Normally they have the tallow stencils on the ends, but this one did not. So I just modeled it from prototype photos, did all of the tank extensions, so I stretched these out and then I completely reskinned the car with styrene. I added the top fittings, hatches and everything. Those are a mixture of Walthers and Athearn parts. Added all of the grab irons, added all of the underbody piping and brake rigging, all the new brake components, and then I custom painted the cars and used the PDC decal sets that I had done to do all of the decaling for these. This is the first one, and this is the heavy fade car, so this has the black to gray fade out. And you can see the amount of oily, greasy residue spilled all over the car. Other than that, weathering, it's pretty much just standard, just a lot of underbody kick up, a lot of splatter and grime and everything else kicked up on the sides of the car. The last one was shown predominantly on my build video when I actually made these, and this is the one that has the earlier style of UTLX walkway, which is kind of unique. It's more of a style you see normally on Canadian tank cars that have that ergonomic bend to them, and then they also have those little curved grab irons. So I modeled at least one of these with that variation, and again, this is a heavily faded car. It has a heck of a lot of spill on it, you can see. It's very greasy, very grimy. I did all the grease and grime using acrylics, and I used oil stains to create some of the greasier patches and some of that splatter. There's a lot of streaking down the sides of the tank body. Again, the entire build exactly the same way as I've talked about with all the other two. The only difference here is that this one just has the slight detail variations, but again, it's a really cool car. And out of the bunch, to be honest, it's one of my personal favorites. I just think it looks really awesome. This next car here is a GATX Asphalt tank car, so it's in molten asphalt service. And this is an Atlas 25K car that I've shortened down to the correct length. So I cut the car in half, spliced the two halves back together after removing some material to get the correct length. I'm not sure the exact length of these cars, but they're very standardized. So the car itself is a stock Atlas paint job. I just recycled the paint scheme and partially repainted the car with some clever airbrush masking techniques. And then I weathered the car with a heavy fade, and then it's got all the extensive rust on the top. And to do the rust, I mixed up a custom acrylic color and sponged it all over the top of the tank body. I then followed behind with dark rust brown oils and patted that on to create the rust effects. And then in certain areas I kind of streaked it down with some oil rendering to create that unique effect. But hot molten cars like this generally get this rusty effect. And you see this on a lot of the older GATX cars. All of the updated decals and everything are a combination of Smokebox graphics decals and custom graphics done by Highball Graphics and Circus City Decals. Again, we'll take a look at the top of this car here. That's where a lot of the fun is. You can see that rust work. A lot of work to do that. And then here you can see a lot of the asphalt spillage coming down from that top hatch. Just really looks nice. And then there's some of the custom data which I added to this car and the appropriate placards. Everything else on this model is just standard tank car weathering, a lot of the heavy fading, streaking, and underbody kick-up to get all the effects. Alright guys, now look at some hoppers real fast. These are all going to be tangent cars. I custom painted, or actually not this one. This is a stock tangent car for the CNW simplified bar logo. These cars are pretty hard to find, so when I found this one on eBay for a good price, I snagged it up and I made this into an AEX salt car. I used custom decals made by PDC since the Smokebox Graphics AEX decals have been out of production for some time. As of making this video, they actually reissued them, so we have them back now. But at the time I didn't have access to the decals, or the original decals anyway, so I had mine custom made. And this car has just been weathered and detailed to match prototype photos. So I did all of the realistic patching. That's peeling away on the side of the car. It's got some older graffiti that's starting to peel. And there's a lot of rust and a lot of grime streaking down from the top. Just a slight bit of load spillage coming down. And then on the top of the car there's a lot of rust and grime. For the most part on the sides I just achieved a lot of the older rust with oils and some powder work. And the fresher rust from salt contact, making contact with rainwater. All that rust, runoff, and flashing is done with the fresher powder. It's a bright orange color. And if we take the camera off the tripod again, here I apologize for the shaky shot, but this is important to get the idea here. I had to model all that rust with those powders, so you can see how I did all that work on the top. It's very patchy, very dirty looking. And then on the top hatch, that's just a scratch-built smooth hatch made from styrene. I added the little hinge details and everything like that. Pretty time-consuming, but important for a car like this because a lot of these all have the smooth hatches now. So that's the first side of this one. And then on the ends, obviously, I did all the prototypical patching. There you can see, and then it's got all the prototypical kick-up and everything like that. You guys know my methods for doing these solid cars. I really like to go into detail with them, and you can get a lot of different techniques combined into one car to create some really cool effects, basically. The opposite side here is a little bit more just showcasing the weathering itself, and you can get a really good idea of the rust effects and everything that I did to the sides. You can see a lot of that streaking coming down the side, all the older patchwork mixed with the new. It's just starting to kind of peel and fade away. Some new data was added there, and you can see where they patched and repaired certain areas. Just a lot of different effect going on to a car like this. The AEX salt shakers, as I like to call them, really do showcase a lot of unique effects, and I think that this particular car really encapsulated a lot of those effects. I really love that rust streaking coming down from the top. It just looks incredible. Alright guys, so now we get to look at my model of the month. I've been working on this thing for actually 2 months now, and it's finally completed. This is a custom painted Tangent Denver and Rio Grande MWCX patched car. You can go on railroadpicturearchives.net and look up photos of the real 461323 to see a comparative shot of this thing and how it effectively turned into a ghost lettered car. So I had to custom paint this, being that no one currently, or at least Tangent or Intermountain, anyone that makes 4750s does not currently make a Rio Grande car. Tangent has done Rio Grande cars in the past, but they're very rare and very hard to find. So the best option to make this car was to custom paint one of my Tangent undecorated kits, which I actually have a couple stored, and I used Tamiya paints to custom paint the orange on this car. That was the first step. So the entire car was custom painted first. I then went back and added all of the patchy rust. I did that in progressive layers using an airbrush with some acrylics. I then added oil effects and different rust effects to do the pitting and the scraping on the sides. I then toned down the bright orange, faded it to blend and match the custom decals, which I had done. I have a whole sheet of Rio Grande ghost lettering, which I had made by Circus City Decals. He did a ghost lettered Rio Grande decal sheet for me. And on this side, I applied the decals, just the Rio Grande lettering at first, and then I added another layer of grime to blend those in to the side to make the orange sort of match. But you can see the orange is slightly darker than what's on the car body because obviously that paint would have been a little bit more preserved with the black lettering covering that over. But as that lettering peeled, it revealed the fresher Rio Grande orange underneath. So you have that color variation here. It's a very unique effect, and it's very hard to do if you were to just do this with an actual Rio Grande car that might have been decorated, say a stock Tangent car. You can do it, but it's really hard to peel all that lettering off and not affect the weathering. So the decals were the easier solution here. So it took a lot of work, even though it was the easier option. To blend that all in. And then after that, it was just a matter of going in and adding all the streaking, all the MWCX patching, and all the data modifications and repainted areas of the car to get all those effects. There's a lot of different rust effects to completely do the sides, but the underbody is basically just caked in rust, and you can see the underbody is just absolutely saturated in that grime. And then on the ends there, you can see all the kick up, all the patching is starting to deteriorate and fade. Same thing with this end. And then this side is my favorite side. This just really came out super nice. Again, if you look at the prototype photos, you can see what I was trying to model here. This side has a lot of the heavier built up rust, and it's starting to consume the sides here, but you can see that Rio Grande lettering still proudly shining through. The MWCX patching is peeling away, but again, it's all prototypical. I was just trying to model all this as of the prototype photos, and I think it came out really nice, but that just came out awesome, I think. I'm very proud of this car. This might be one of my best 4750s I've ever done. And this was, I mean, hours and hours of painstaking work to repaint and repatch certain areas, blend everything together and make it look correct. It's just a hell of a lot of work to do something like that, but I now have a completed car, and I'm glad I don't have to do another one of these. On the top of the car, you can see the extent of the rust. That's all oil rendering, blending certain areas with the airbrush, adding some dot effects, and then again there's the Scratchbuilt roof hatch. Being that no one currently makes these smooth hatches, I had to Scratchbuilt the fiberglass hatches with styrene, added all the little details, and then painted it to match the car. So there's a lot of work into this, many hours of work, guys, but it's worth it in the end because you get a really great effect similar to this. Now I'm going to show one more tank car for this video to wrap things up. So we're going to look at some of the projects that I've gotten done at my workbench here, and as you can see, it's absolutely a train wreck. It's just kind of what happens when you get an accumulation of projects that pile up and you have to just kind of throw things wherever. But we'll talk about all this real quick in closing to kind of give you guys an idea of sort of what's to come and really what my itinerary is and what I'm aiming for to get done in these next couple of months, especially gearing up till going into fall here. I really like to work on projects indoors in the fall, and of course work on the model railroad if I can, because just the cooler weather makes it a lot easier. And it's just a lot more comfortable. It's good, you know, sit down, rainy day, coffee weather kind of modeling, I like to call it. You put a movie on the computer, like I got set up here, and you can just really get going to town pretty much. So what I got right now is some Asphalt tank cars, and these are long overdue. I mean, I've been working on these for, oh shoot, I think, or at least planning to make these for 3 years now, but the cars are hard to find. This one here is a UTLX, original Walthers UTLX modern paint scheme car. These are incredibly rare. This is the first one I've ever found in the 10 years I've been searching for them. I'm not even joking, they're that rare. The issue is that Walthers does such small runs of certain paint schemes like this, which you'd think that they'd want to do the more modern cars like this, but instead they do such small runs of them that they get eaten up and you can't find them. So I finally found this one on eBay, and I was brave enough to kit bash this one into the correct length for hot asphalt service. Now, this one obviously has been redetailed. I've added all the grab irons. It's got the KD's new placards added. All the walkways are scratch built with new walkway railings and everything else, new fittings, which are a mixture of the newer Athearn fittings for the 30K tanks. These ones are fitted with the new brake stands, which are mounted on the walkway, which is prototypical for the more modern cars. And I have the brake piping running between the valve and the reservoir tank there. And then I have all the prototypically correct underbody piping, which as you can see still needs painted and weathered in. This car is in the beginning stages of weathering. So you can see I've added all of the grime and everything to the underbody. Still working on the trucks there, you know. Still getting to that, but it's starting to come along here. All I've really had to do in terms of decaling is just add the new placards. But this car is pretty much factory, other than the fact that I extended this thing out by a little bit. I had to just basically cut a little sliver from another Walthers car to extend this one out. So it's basically one car cut in half, and then I take the center section out of another Walthers car, combine the halves back together with that new section, and then body fill, sand, and putty everything back together. And then once it's all repainted and blended together, you can't even tell I modified this thing. So that's kind of the magic of the modeling that I'm doing these days. You can get away with stuff like this. So that's the more modern painted UTLX. The rest that I want to do in this style, again, I'm going to have to build the exact same way, but I'm going to have to completely custom paint, which fortunately I have all of the decals ready to go for. I mentioned in one video prior that I got a whole bunch of UTLX data sheets done by PDM and I believe, who was it? I got some sheets done by Highball Graphics. This next one here is another stock Walthers. This one was not repainted, it was not modified in terms of the paint scheme. All I did here was just add additional data to get this thing up to date for hot asphalt service. These are all custom done decals. And I added some patching, and then again, just like the UTLX car in the back, I extended this one out, cut the car completely in half, extended it with a new middle section, glued everything together, body puttied it, sanded it, partially repainted it, and then added all the upgraded details like the new grab irons, the new placards, which are by Detail Associates. They're really nicely detailed placards. New end railings, KD coupler upgrades, of course. New top railings and fittings, and the new brake detailing and rigging. And again, you can see this one is in the end stages of weathering. This one's a little bit more complete. It's got all the splatter done and everything, and all the weathering around the railings. Some splatter up there is done, and then you can see the really nice rust halos around those weld lines. Really cool little touch there. That's very prototypical for a car like this. And then the underbody piping. Notice I'm just brushing over these for the moment because these aren't completely done. I will show these in a future update so you guys can get all of the details on how I made these cars. But this has been a big project I've been trying to knock out, and it's taken me a long time to get around to these, but I'm finally knocking out these cars and getting them done. Now, I also have another UTLX sulfur car I'm building. This is another car that you guys can keep an eye out for. You can see I got to do some paint touch-up and stuff like that to fix some of these runoff areas, but it's been completely renumbered. A lot of new decals added for sulfur service, and it's in the beginning stages of getting the underbody prep for the piping. I've already scratch built the new railings on the top and added the placards, new fittings. Then I got to do some other things, but for the most part the car body is prepped for further detailing here, so that will be another future car. And then in terms of other cars that I want to work on, someone had mentioned that why I don't do too many flat cars, and he had a good point with that. I've been wanting to do some flat cars, but they're so tedious for me to do. They take a lot of time that I've pushed them off. But I had these new Rapido cars in storage, so I pulled these out, and I just started the weathering on these. There, I pulled these into the light for you guys just so you can see them very quickly as we wrap up here. But you can see I've already started to model a lot of the rust and grime on this one. This is the heaviest out of all of them. You can see I'm doing all of that rust pitting and gouging on the tops of the beams there, at the base of the flat. Lots of grime, lots of dirt and rust, everything like that. On this guy there, you can see all those little scrapes and dings. Now the reason I've only done the tops of the beams and certain portions, I've ignored the floor for the most part, that is because I'm going to be putting real lumber loads on these cars here, including this one in the back as well. And I am going to order another, probably a TTZX, another yellow, to also weather similarly to this one. And I have real lumber loads coming by Details and Scale. This gentleman is out in Oregon, and he does some fantastic lumber loads, Scratchbuilt to order. He stays really busy with them, but he uses real lumber to build loads, and I got the bare unwrapped lumber loads that are in these random little stacks. For any of you guys who are familiar with his work or have ordered some of his products before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but I wanted some different kinds of loads for my cars. I don't want a whole bunch of all wrapped loads. You know, I want a little something that represents the current state of lumber haulage that you see today, where it's a number of different lumber products being hauled on these, and it's not just one even, uniform, clean, long load like what you would get if you just modeled a whole bunch of center beams with the Walthers loads, which are all even and uniform and perfect. I want some random effects where stuff looks kind of wacky or unwrapped or kind of beat up a little bit, because that's what the real lumber loads and the gypsum loads look like on these things. So that's something that's really important to me to try to get right. So I'm modeling these cars in the idea that they'll have lumber loads on them that'll disguise a lot of the flooring and a lot of the beam portions of the car, but the tops of the beams are what you will be able to see, and of course the top of the roof beam there, that roof support, you'll be able to see as well, and of course the top of the cars as well. So that's why I've only weathered those portions for the most part. Now, even that being said, even though I didn't have to weather the entire cars, it's still a heck of a lot of work. I think I spent about 4 hours on these today before work, just trying to sit there and blend out a lot of the rust. And I still got to do a little bit of rendering, because you can see there's still some patches of oils that I got to try to clean up a little bit because they're kind of rough. But this gives you a good idea of what I'm trying to go for in terms of current center beam cars. So for any of you guys who are asking me why I don't model center beams normally like this is why, because for me they demand a whole other level of attention to detail. And I'm trying to get these as authentic as possible, especially with my current standards. Otherwise, I don't want to bother modeling them, because they really require a very high level of authenticity and realistic modeling to make them look authentic. Anyways, so I have both of them prepped, and like I said, I'm going to get another one of the yellow ones ordered from Rapido on eBay, and then I'm actually going to be looking at trying to get a couple of the Atlas ones. The Atlas cars are another NSC style center beam, and they have the Lee schemes and some more of the mineral brown red cars that I like so much, similar to this one, that are coming in like CP, SU, BC Rail, NDYX, you know, First Union Rail, for example. So I'm going to try to order maybe 4 center beams max, and I'm going to try to do different lumber loads for all of those cars, and that'll basically complete my lumber fleet, for at least for now. And then in terms of other flat cars, the other big thing I'm going to start working on is some more bulkhead flat cars, and these are going to be pipe load cars. I've been working on collecting some more of the rarer TTPX schemes, so these are the R1 marked cars. Very rare, very hard to find. I was lucky to find a couple of hobby shops that had these, thanks to some buddies of mine who hooked me up. I really appreciate the help, guys. Thank you. They were able to get me links and numbers for the people I needed to talk to get a hold of these cars. So these are going to also be getting weathered extensively, and they'll get pipe loads. I have some sulfur cars up there. I got to build these grain dryer kits. That's going to be for a secret project that I'll talk about later. But yeah, guys, just a lot of random stuff right now, and just this workbench stuff alone, I think this really gives you a good idea of just kind of the chaos of modeling right now, because I'm trying to do so many different things, and it's just taking so much to get things as authentic as possible. And you know, I just noticed that as I've gotten older, you know, I don't make a lot of the mistakes like I used to when I was younger that I could pass. I really have a lot more discipline, and it's a great thing, but it can kind of be a downside too, because models for me right now are taking, honestly, weeks longer than I used to. I don't know how I was making cars like I used to, where I was cranking out, you know, 5 or 6 models a week. Right now I'm lucky to get 1 car done a week, and that's okay. You know, it just comes down to the standards. But you know, I just wanted to show you guys some of these to kind of keep in mind, see what's to look out for in the next video. And I do have some other tank cars I are finishing up building, so I'm filming those right now, or at least wrapping up some portions of filming. I got some other projects planned, and I'm going to start uploading the first of a couple videos based on my secret project that I'm building out in the garage. We'll talk about that when those videos come out, so get excited, guys. We're going to be looking at something brand new that I think will really be exciting for you guys, especially with the season coming up in fall. That'll all make sense when I unveil this. You'll understand why I'm talking about this. But anyways, enough rambling here, guys. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you guys following my work and staying subscribed and staying tuned into what I'm doing. I appreciate all the likes, the comments, and all the positive messages that I've been getting on Facebook and Instagram, and of course all the comments here on YouTube. I always appreciate the encouragement and all the good feedback, so I appreciate it, guys. And of course, for the new followers here that like my work, feel free to subscribe for more content coming down the road. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching. Take it easy.